Welcome back to the House of Broken Fords. Just got some customer work done, finished assembling this, just a stock rebuild for Focus RS, and then just prepping another engine to go together. I'm waiting on a few parts for this. This is one of the Tune Plus Type B heads with cams and everything in it and porting. Got the short block over there against the wall, but I'm waiting on a few bolts to put that together. The engine is almost finished. I should be able to pick it up next week. This one's got to come out. If you watch the video on this car, this is just a mock-up engine, just a iron block LQ4, a aluminum block, 6 liters going in here with cam and valve trains and all that good, or valve train and all that good stuff. So it's getting assembled right now by my buddy Kyle. It'll be going in the next probably a video or two from now. And I'm waiting for some machine work for the engine for this to go together. So the head's getting O-ringed. We'll go over that once it comes in and the reason why I decided to O-ring the head. The block is machined, or should be machined today, but I won't have it assembled probably for another week or two. So it's going to be about 2 or 3 weeks before we do a video on the engine going together for that. So what we are working on today is the trash Fiesta. So if you watch the previous video, one of the first videos of that I've done in the shop, this used to be smashed up front, had no body panels or anything on it. Got it close, still need to take it to a body shop to get the frame rail pulled out again. I mentioned in the other video that this frame rail is still pushed back a little bit and down. So I gotta take it to somebody that knows what they're doing, pull it out and straighten it all out, and I'm just going to have them finish lining up the front of the body here, and then this thing's probably going to get painted, even though it looks okay right now and it's got fresh paint on the bumper and hood and fenders and everything from the new body panels. I want to change the color on it, I believe. We were going to wrap it, but if you watch my last video, I'm not wrapping shit anymore. No more. So the goal today is we're going to remove the windshield wiper cowl. We're going to remove the intake tube and prep the stock turbo to come off because we have a Turbonetics S280 going on. Turbonetics, god damn it, Turbo Technics S280 going on. So I'm going to do another video and just release it in the next day or two, unboxing this and going over the parts included in it. Today's video is just going to be swapping the subframe on this. Got a brand new one on the ground. This one might not be bent, but I don't want to take any chances. It was a pretty good hit on this corner, and we know that the subframe has already shifted over to the passenger side. So I'm just going to swap this one out, and while it's all apart, I'm going to change the axle seal on this side of the trans and refill the trans, and then I'm going to pull the downpipe. Actually, I'm going to pull the whole stock turbo stuff out today, and then the next video will be putting this turbo on. And hopefully at the same time, we'll be able to do the install and then immediately hit the dyno. I want to get this to a point where I can drive it on the street, obviously, but all the stuff's going to happen in one big shot. So there's probably going to be multiple videos. It's really too much for one video. People don't really want to sit and listen to me talk for 30 minutes in one video, so we're going to break this down in parts. So today is just going to be remove the front suspension off, remove the subframe, and take off pretty much anything on the top side that's going to keep me from accessing the turbo. We got to take the manifold bolts off and disconnect the oil feed line from the top as well, I believe. So we're going to jump into it here in a second. I'm going to get this thing up in the air, get the wheels off, and start loosening up the subframe bolts. So I got the subframe actually already ready to come out. Just looked at the timestamp on the camera from in between clips. It only took me 15 minutes to get to this point. So anybody that says that doing a subframe is a pain in the ass, obviously the lift helps a little bit, but even on the ground, it's really not that big of a deal. So because I'm replacing the axle seal, I removed the axle nut off the side, but it doesn't need to come off if you're just changing the subframe, because at this point, after I've got the ball joint disconnected, the tie rod disconnected, I'm swapping control arms, so I had to take these bolts out, this one here and this one here, but you don't have to take those out if you're just doing the subframe. And then the end link needs to be disconnected as well. So with the end link, tie rod, ball joint disconnected, all you need to do to get the subframe out is take the inside the car, there's actually a 10mm bolt for the steering knuckle. Take that 10mm out. Make sure you put the steering wheel straight before you do so. So take that out, disconnect the joints I just showed you, and then you have a subframe bolt here on each side. And then up top, you have a inverse Torx bolt right here. If your car's got some miles on it, these might be a little tricky, especially the ball joint and the tie rod as well. So if you have some rust or you're afraid of breaking some bolts, just before you start, soak it in some Kroil. This stuff is the shit. But I did the same, even though this only has 1,300 miles on it. I didn't want to chance it, so I just sprayed everything. But again, steering knuckle, tie rods, ball joints, and end links. Then you have these two inverse Torx. I believe they're E12s on both sides, and then this right here. So there's also the rear motor mount needs to come out. So if you don't know how to do that, there's tons of rear motor mount install videos, but basically you have two downpipe bolts that hold the bracket on, another bolt here that holds the rear motor mount bracket and the downpipe bracket on. Then you have some more 13s here, here, and here. So pop that out of the way and you're good to go. So this is going to be a little heavy. If I'm on the ground, it wouldn't be that big of a deal just to bench press it down and off me. But because we're on a lift, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my rolling scaffolding here. This is actually why I have these specifically for the RS, but works for the Fiesta too. So I have another one. I'm just going to take the plates here for it, put it on the other one, lower the car down until the subframe touches, remove those subframe bolts, then just raise the car up. So I'm gonna go and get that all set up, and I'm gonna get this subframe out of here. So I got that scaffolding underneath there, got the car lowered down onto it, got it lined up the subframe. You can see I already got the bolts out. Sorry, got the bolts out here and here. Everything else is disconnected. So all that's left is just lifting the car up off the scaffolding. That's it. So like I said, if you are just changing out the subframe, or sorry, just removing the subframe, you don't need to disconnect the control arms at all. These can stay on. You can see the tie rods are here, you know, and then when this thing's out, this tie rod's new, so it's loose, not even tight yet. So when you take this thing out, say to do a turbo install, which I'm going to tell you why it's a benefit to do a turbo install with the subframe out, or sorry, to remove the subframe when doing a turbo install. Just leave the tie rods alone. Don't move these in and out, because that's going to, you should get aligned anyways, but it's going to really jack up your alignment if you move these in and out. You want to leave these where they're at, and you want to make sure the steering wheel inside the car does not move it either. So this thing's got to get aligned, and if you're swapping subframes, you should be getting it all aligned anyways afterwards. But getting this back in, when you put it in, just make sure you get all these lined back up. I'll show you when it gets to that point. But why I like to remove the subframe for turbo installs, look how much room there is. That's the whole turbo right there. Super simple. You got really good access to the downpipe. You got access to the heat shield, which is a pain in the ass. You have access to all the boost control solenoid lines and everything like that. The intake coupler, just everything. I mean, that only took me 15, 20 minutes to get out. And if you're on the ground, it's probably going to take you about half hour, 45 minutes. But it's super easy, especially if you have a lift. So recommend removing it when doing a turbo install. Save yourself some headache. And if you are like me and you're in an accident, you need to replace it, obviously it's super easy to take out. So doing a sway bar at the same time would be a good idea, seeing as everything's right here, super accessible. Do end links at the same time. If you have an older car and you have everything out, good time to replace the ball joints and the tie rods as well. So tons of benefits of pulling this thing out, especially if you have a lot of miles on your car. You can service a lot of things, you know, with it out. So next step, I'm not going to change the axle today, the axle seal. I forgot my drain pan. So I'm going to wait for that. I'm just going to leave it for now. So I'm going to go over to the Turbskis here and start pulling some things out. So we're going to disconnect anything that's not related to fluid today until I get my drain pan here. So should be able to take the downpipe off, should be able to take the heat shields off, and should be able to remove some of this boost control solenoid stuff as well. So I'm going to jump into that. All right, so we got the downpipe off. A couple other things removed as well, so we'll go over that. So as you can see, the downpipe is out. Got it disconnected from the cat back. Got it disconnected from the turbo. So a little hint when I do these, or a little tip when I do these, is I leave the bottom bolt in. The downpipe slotted. As you can see right here, you can see it's slotted. So I remove these two bolts and then loosen this one up just a little bit, and then when I'm all done and the downpipe's ready to come out, I can just lift it off there. That way that bolt doesn't come out and the downpipe comes crashing down on you. So get that out of the way. So with the downpipe out of the way, obviously see that we're ready to pull this turbo out pretty much. Got the intake coupler loosened up, and then we have the charge pipes off, all the boost control solenoid stuff's off, the blow-off valve is disconnected. So the heat shield bolts are out. Now these are a pain in the ass, like I mentioned earlier. So you have a 8mm bolt here, you have two along the top, then you have one that's just past the wastegate. Not sure if you can see it there, but it's right about here. Once you remove all those bolts, it's loose, but it won't come out. It's a huge pain. You can start bending it, but what I usually do is I wait. Sorry, I think you get a better look. It doesn't come out. You can bend it up and everything, but what I usually do is I'll remove these coolant lines out of the way before I pull the heat shield off. So there's a bracket over on this side here for this lower line here. Remove that bolt out of the bracket first. That way this can be loose and free to move once you remove it out of here. So if you remove this bolt, coolant's going to be puking out at you. And if you didn't remember to move that bracket off over there, move that bolt off the bracket over here, you're just going to be sitting there with this thing pouring coolant all over you. With that bracket loose over there and this bolt out, you'll be able to swing this out of the way, and then you'll be able to cap it. So grab some vacuum caps and assorted size vacuum caps from O'Reilly's or AutoZone, and then just pull this off and cap the thing. You're still going to get some leaks and everything on there, but it's about as best as you can do. Make sure you keep some towels and stuff on the floor and watch your eyes, and don't get the shit in your armpit. That's the one thing that I hate. Work underneath the car, loosen this up, coolant starts running down your hand into your pit. Anyways, just thinking about it pisses me off. So the next step, which will be in the next video, we're going to remove these two, remove the oil feed line on top and remove the oil drain line here. And then with the coolant lines out of the way, we'll be able to remove that heat shield, and then we'll be able to disconnect the manifold. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove the turbo off of the manifold first and then remove the manifold. Reason why I'm pulling the manifold off is because we're going to be swapping it for a ported manifold. So I'm going to lower the car down, and I'm going to get the intake tube off and out of the way. I'm going to remove the windshield wiper cowl out of the way as well. So let's go and get this thing on the ground. Car's down, windshield cowl is off. Everybody always complains online and in the forums, stuff like that this is a pain to get off. It took me all of 6 minutes to pull off. So you have two 15s on the wiper arms themselves. Pull those off, and then you'll just push down on the wiper to loosen them up, pull them off. Then you have these clips here. These clips, once the lower piece is on, let me actually find the lower piece. This is the lower right here. So you have these clips all the way along this. You just use a flathead or just anything that can pry and pull one side and then pry the other side off, pops right off, no problem. And what those clips do is it actually holds the upper piece on. So once these clips are off, the upper just comes right off, no big deal. And then the lower has two 10s, one on each side here, then has a 10 right here on the back side. And I'll show you on the car. You do have to pull the headlights off, but that's real quick. Just unplug the headlight. Then you have a clip here, bolt here, which is a Torx, and a bolt up here, which is a Torx. And then you have, once the headlight's out of the way, you'll expose this one here, which is a 10, and then that 10 that goes back here. Once that's off, you can pull the whole thing off. Get those clipped back. Once that's off, I mean, look how much room you have now. Tons of room to access the turbo. There's that heat shield that's not going to come off until we pull the coolant pipe off. But tons of room. You know, it's better to work easier. It might take you an extra few steps to remove a couple things, you know, like the intake tube and the windshield wiper cowl, or sorry, the intake tube has to come off anyways, but removing the windshield wiper cowl, like I said, 6 minutes to pull it off. No big deal, no damage done, and now you have all that room to access the turbo. So this is pretty much gonna do it for today. Like I said, I forgot the drain pan so I can drain the coolant and the oil out of this thing. So I'm gonna bring that in probably tomorrow, and I'll get working on it and film some more. So I'll release this video this week, and then the part 2 of getting the actual turbo on will be in the second part. And the second part should be from this stage all the way to completely running. We're going to throw a downpipe on it. We're going to throw our catback on it, the titanium catback, and then we'll throw the turbo that's over there on the ground on. We're going to throw our intake setup on, get the headlight and everything back together, and should be on the ground and running. Then from there, I'll need to take it to the body shop where they'll do the frame rail repair, line up all the body panels, and then do the alignment as well. And then at that stage, it should be ready to go to take it, get inspected, get a new clean title for it, and she'll be ready to hit the streets. So one last thing before I head out is I'm getting a lot of emails and messages and stuff or asking me when I'm going to be doing updates, you know, on the Fiesta and all the other cars in here. So I'm doing this, it's all on the side. You know, this is after I'm done doing emails for the day. You know, doing all the e-tunes and getting back to customers is the #1 priority. I handle all the tuning myself. Nobody else helps me with the tuning at all. So we tune a ton of different vehicles, and not just the Ford stuff you see on our website. I've been doing some other vehicles for new platforms we're going to be jumping into. So that's always ultimate priority. So seeing the cars here in the shop, you know, and getting slow updates and kind of random videos in between, it's just, I'm doing it when I have the time. So the Fiesta is the car we want to get done first before any of the other cars here, like the RS and the Mustang and the Raptor and stuff like that. The Fiesta is the priority, but I've had some people message me almost kind of pissed, saying, you know, that they're waiting to install their turbo until I do this video. Well, I'm sorry, it's not, you know, the only thing I do each week. You know, I only get time to film on like Thursday, Friday, end of the week when I'm finally getting caught up. You know, we receive 20 new customers for Fiesta each week, 30 new customers for Mustang each week, and like 30, 40 RS customers each week. So add those new customers each week, you know, for just tuning and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of it is the, you know, the free tunes that come with the Raptor. Sorry, I forgot to mention the Raptor. The Raptor outside is a lot of the free tune stuff for the RS. But combine the new customers with existing customers that need revisions because they've done upgrades or whatever to their car. It's a ton of emails. So when I'm waking up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, getting ready and starting the day, you know, I'm doing tunes until 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon in most cases. And in between all that, I have to keep up with, you know, people messaging me, emailing me just for questions, not just tuning. So I'm doing this. It's Thursday now. I've been at it for like an hour and a half, you know. It really wasn't a lot going on today, but I've been doing it about an hour and a half, and that's really all I had for time today to do it. So I apologize. I want to do it more when we get some help and the new shop is all built. The videos will come a lot more frequent. You know, I want to start doing at least 2 videos a week, and maybe even 3, you know, depending on what we have going on. So once the new shop's built and we have the new dyno and employees and everything, again, I'll be able to have more free time. I'll be able to delegate a lot of the stuff I don't need to be doing each day besides the tuning. And I'll have help on that because we're going to be hiring another calibrator or tuner. So in the future, like I said, just bear with us right now. The videos aren't that great. It's just me doing the work, having to stop and do the work, come back, grab the camera, talk to the camera. I'm also not very good at talking to the camera. So bear with us for now. It's all going to get better. There's going to be a lot more interesting things coming. I have another vehicle that we purchased 2 weeks ago outside that we're going to be doing a full build on, and that is one of the new platforms I was just talking about. So we'll get into that probably in either next week's video or the week after that. So I'm going to clean up a little bit. Oh, one more last thing. If you see any of the parts coming off this car that you need, you know, like the factory downpipe, the crossover pipe, intake, whatever, stuff that you see coming off and being replaced with aftermarket parts, just shoot me an email. My email will be in the description below. Let me know you need it. If you pay shipping on it, I'll box it up and get it out to you. So we're not going to use any of this stuff. It's going to end up in the scrap more than likely. So if you have a use for it, I have no problem boxing it up and shipping it out to you. So like I said, I'm going to clean up, get this all wrapped up, and then we'll see you next week when we get the second part of this Fiesta going.